Hello again, friends, and first of all, wishing a happy new year to everyone, and apologies for the apparent lack of contact, but a lot has been going on since the last couple of video posts. Now, the first thing I need to do before we start today is put out a very short, simple caveat. The title of this video, Crooks and Clowns in Wigs and Gowns, refers to those particular barristers, judges, lawyers, etc., whom we have encountered who have engaged in criminal conduct. And if there are any of you out there who think that we are referring to you when you are actually decent, honourable people, then please accept my apologies at this point and don't waste everybody's time coming after me with claims of defamation and the like. Anyway, I'll come to that in a moment. We've got 5 quick issues to cover today. The first is a very short update on the situation. Those of you who have been following what's going on will remember that I recently was in the district court in the courts of justice, the criminal courts of justice up in Dublin, where I made 7 applications for criminal summonses against officers in the DPP's office, against a couple of corrupt solicitors, guards, and a High Court judge. Now, the evidence was overwhelming. That situation on November the 20th ended up with the president of that court swearing me under oath to tell the truth about any questions he'd asked me, and then he failed to ask me even one question before disappearing for lunch, returning, reading out a judgment, objecting when I tried to interrupt, and then basically saying, that's it, over and done with, and then he scuttled out of his court like the criminal that he is. Yes, that's you, Judge Colin Daly, President of the District Court. And my oh my, since that has happened, have we had a flood of complaints about you, sir. Anyway, more about that in a moment. 2 days later, I was in front of the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice George Birmingham. My reason for being in front of him was to complain about the fraud that I'd just been in lodging criminal complaints about 2 days earlier in the District Court. So I was complaining about these frauds to him. He wouldn't discuss the subject. He kept trying to change and the usual tricks that we're used to. Eventually, I put him on the spot. I said, Justice Birmingham, are you asking me to participate in this fraud, this obvious fraud being foisted on your court? He would not answer the question, and he too got up and scuttled out the back, making him the 30th judge in a row to exit their courtroom unlawfully, without charging me with any offence or even accusing me of any offence such as contempt of court or whatever. None of that. This is just them abandoning their jurisdiction because we're catching them red-handed in criminal activity. And make no mistake about it, folks, this is exactly what it is. So I then went directly to the Supreme Court just before Christmas. I walked into the Supreme Court offices with another appeal into the Supreme Court, and if you remember, they've already refused 3 or 4 now, previous ones. This one was complaining that Justice Birmingham had walked out on my appeal to the Court of Appeal, which is the last court down, you see. What happened again? The registrar didn't even come out to the front office, just sent a message to tell me we're not accepting it. So I immediately made appeal against that refusal, which you can do. And I sent a letter under seal to all of the justices of the Supreme Court. They all got these letters because we've done this before, and it's a criminal offence for anyone else to open those letters. They got these letters. I've heard nothing back from them since. Now, it's supposed to be a 14-day process. We're now into the 3rd week, still nothing. So we're going to follow up on that as well. In the meantime, one of the Supreme Court judges, Justice Donal O'Donnell, had written another judgment trying to qualify a previous refusal from the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, he too has composed a fraudulent document full of errors, mistakes, and outright lies. Now, they can't be this incompetent, because if they are, they need to be fired straight away. This is not incompetence. This is deliberate criminal obstructionism to try and protect other agents of the state who are clearly guilty of criminal conduct. So the situation that stands at the moment is that I have now lodged criminal complaints, applications for criminal summonses against Justice Minister Charlie Flanagan for refusing to do anything throughout his whole tenure about all of this corruption we keep reporting to him, against Judge Michael McGrath, High Court Judge, against Colin Daly, against George Birmingham, and against Donal O'Donnell. Now, those applications have been made. Wouldn't you know it, the CCJ has gone completely silent on those matters. They haven't got back to me. We're chasing that up at the moment. But the applications have been made, and the law says that those people have to come into the courtroom and face the accusations I am making against them, provided I can prove that there's prima facie evidence. That means that I can show that there's a clear offence has been committed. They have to answer those summonses. So now we will see what's going to happen, because the last time we did this, it was only with 4 guards who had committed assaults on us in the courts. And we had them in the courts to answer these charges. Next thing you know, I was in Castlereagh prison, and that case disappeared as if it had never existed. Anyway, more on that another time. Very interestingly, shortly after I left Justice Birmingham's court, let's just say I had to travel to another jurisdiction. Okay, I won't go into too much detail other than to say within 48 hours my vehicle had been expertly targeted and robbed at 10 o'clock in the morning in a public car park with a security guard sitting at the entrance to the car park. The short version of this, folks, is that these people managed to pull the barrel of the lock out of the vehicle, get in through the driver's door. They ignored the dash cam, the sat nav, they ignored other items of value, and they went straight for the computer bag. They actually took out some documents, court documents, which were of no relevance to them, and they took others that had judges' signatures on them and the like, plus USB sticks, computers and so on. Eventually, the police in that jurisdiction followed up on it about 48 hours later, and were ridiculously talking about getting fingerprints and stuff, and this was after I had to put it in the garage to be repaired. Ridiculous stuff. Anyway, since then I've received an email from them when I chased them up and I said, would you like to know the details of everything that was robbed? Oh no, don't bother your little head about it, because if we don't find the stuff that was stolen, there's no need even for you to lodge a complaint. Can you believe this? After me telling them that there were some highly sensitive materials there and all the rest of it. You don't even need to make a complaint. If we find the stuff, then you can make a statement. And I wrote back saying, but if you don't know what stuff went missing, how will you know if you find it, and etc, etc. Since then, they've now tried to pretend that even though the security guard in the location said that he had never had another vehicle broken into on that property during his tenure, not the guards, but the police in that location tried to make out that there were multiple robberies taking place all the time, and it was just a bit of bad luck that mine was the only vehicle hit in a huge car park with hundreds of cars in it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, we'll leave that one until we know more. Now, also just before Christmas, DPP Chief Prosecuting Solicitor Helena Kiley, who has been literally harassing us now for years with fraudulent documents, bills for costs for the DPP, which we've told them we won't pay because we do not fund criminal conduct. Anyway, she sent me a notice to be in the High Court just before Christmas. It was utterly fraudulent. Completely fraudulent, wrong title on it and everything, but there was me worried if I don't turn up in the court, what might happen in my absence. So I wrote directly into the court service and I said, will someone please clarify what's going on here? And most especially, I'm supposed to go in and come in front of this Judge Michael McGrath, who I've already accused of criminal conduct. So I want you to put it to Justice McGrath. Does he want me to turn up on that Wednesday? Because unless he's willing to purge the contempt of his own court and correct the record, the only other reason that I would want to be in his court would be to arrest him again. And this time we would be insisting that the guards take him into custody as they're obliged to do under the law concerning citizens' arrests. Interestingly, I was then to discover that the previous senior registrar at the High Court has been replaced by another gentleman who, very responsibly I think, immediately wrote back to me and said, I'm sorry about this confusion, Mr. Manning, but we've already notified the DPP that there is no such hearing. They are fully aware that there's no hearing and there's no need for you to turn up, and I hope this clarifies the matter. I thanked him and asked and said to him, I do hope this is going to be the beginning of a wonderful relationship between us and the court service, and certainly an improvement on what's been going on in the past. Number 4, as some of you will know about this already, but New Year's Day in the post, I received this letter. Now, out of respect for the person who sent us, I am not going to display the contents, other than to tell everybody that it did come from, as you can see here on the top corner there, that is from the King's Inn. What do they call it? The Honourable Society of King's Inns. Now this is the training location for barristers, and obviously most judges have been through this location. But the heading of the list states Benchers hit list. That's what it says at the top. Benchers hit list. Now the benchers are basically, it's all of the judges and all of the barristers in Ireland. There are a couple of exceptions, but that's loosely how to put it. There are 14 names on this list. I'm one of them. There's nothing on the envelope, or even a computer wasn't used to type this up. I believe someone is trying to help us. They're trying to give us an alert that the powers that be, especially the corrupt powers that be, have decided that they're going to take some radical action to try and shut us up and shut us down. Now there's two other names I will tell you are on the list because they've openly informed people they received a similar role. Ben Gilroy was one of them, and the other was Jerry Beads. Now I'm asking the rest of those people on the list, I'll do my best to contact you now over the coming days. I'm suggesting that what we should do is arrange a press conference and get together and invite the press to come to it, and we'll sit down and maybe give them a 2-minute synopsis of each of our stories. Because the only way to tackle this sort of insidious criminality and conspiracies and collusion by corrupt officials and office holders is to take it public. All right. So this brings me to my last point, and the last point is a report that we have just compiled. Now we were hoping to have it out before Christmas. Now don't worry, it's not as big as it looks. It's there's two of them in here, for instance, and it's only printed on one side. But the report is entitled "Criminality in the Irish Courts: A Provisional Report by the Integrity Ireland Association." Now I will be putting a link up on the Integrity Ireland Facebook page and the main Integrity Ireland website to this document. It's only a PDF document. In other words, you can just click it and open it and click it and send it. And I'm asking everybody, especially all of our armchair warriors, who cannot for one reason or another get out there and do this active stuff on the ground. Please, anyone you know that can receive this report, please send it to them. I've already sent it to all of the sitting TDs and senators in Ireland. I've also sent it to the European Parliament and to the European Commission. It is going to be sent to every single location we can come up with. And it's obviously been sent to Charlie Flanagan. The last entry in it is a letter to Charlie Flanagan, Minister for Justice, giving him until January the 21st to confirm that he has initiated the procedure in the Dáil that would set about bringing in impeachment proceedings against some of these horrendously corrupt judges. Now, we have 100 names referred to in this report, and they range all the way from the top end up in the Supreme Court right down to court service staff and guards who have been involved in criminal activity. And please understand, I'm not exaggerating here. All of the quotes are in there. You can read it for yourself in black and white. Is it a crime to do X, Y, and Z? Yes, it is. Here it is, and here's the penalty for it. But they keep doing it with impunity, and in the process, they are ruining so many decent people's lives. This has to stop, guys. So we're now at the point, we're in a complete stalemate, a standoff. I have cases ongoing up in the High Court which have been fraudulently interfered with and suspended and placed in limbo. When I've tried to appeal about it to the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, they too are engaging in frauds to try and stop the truth coming out. So what's left? I've lodged criminal charges, I've gone to the guards, I've gone through the courts all the way up and down through all the tiers of the courts. I've tried to get common informer prosecutions issued. I've even gone and lodged citizens' arrests against individuals. I've certainly written to the Minister for Justice, to the Taoiseach, to the President, and for some reason none of them are responding. Nothing. They won't even acknowledge. Even when we send them these letters under seal, registered post and everything, there is no acknowledgement. They seem to think that if they just shut up, close their eyes, hide themselves, that this will all go away. Our country is not a genuine state as it stands at the moment. We do not qualify to be a member of the European Union because we are failing inasmuch as we do not allow people to genuinely access justice. In the main, and again I'm only talking about those judges I've had the misfortune of dealing with, and with one or two exceptions in that grouping who have been decent people from what I can tell, but there are far too few of them. The rest of them are engaged in wholesale, endemic, systemic, routine criminal behaviour, and you and me are the fools that are letting them get away with it. Now please remember this as we come up to the next election. Do you really want to continue to elect career liars and moral deviants back into the corridors of power where they can populate our justice system with their own cronies and their lackeys? This is the result. The country that we have today where justice is not available. Thanks everyone for listening. Please remember our motto, one by one, together, we can make a difference.